And hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unseen Journey. I'm your host, Guy, with my co-host, Ashley. How are we doing today, Ashley?
It's another glorious day. Another glorious day in the neighborhood.
I love it. I love it. I
Yes.
love it. Well, if you haven't done so already, you're joining us for the first time, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button that's somewhere. And join us weekly for our talks, I think down there. Join us
Yeah.
weekly for our talks. So with that being said, Ashley, who you got today with us?
I'm really excited about today's because I think she's a triple threat. She's a team leader. So she's a veteran herself. She's one of our team leaders, and she's also a lawyer that works with veterans. So she's a Gulf War veteran that is a lawyer for veterans and survivors. She's a team leader. She's a community servant. And I had to look this up, Didi. A GSD mom. Do you know what a GSD mom is, Guy?
A GSD.
I'm going to give you a hint. It's an animal.
I was going to say great soccer driver.
No.
It's German Shepherd dog. A German Shepherd dog, right, Didi?
Yes.
That's right. I am a German Shepherd doggy mommy. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is your German Shepherd's name?
Her name is Freya. She's named after a Nordic. She's a Nordic goddess. A Nordic goddess.
Yeah.
She is really a beautiful animal who's saved my life. And so I don't even know what to say about her. She's got quite a story all on her own. If she could talk, she'd make an entire episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
My dog doesn't have quite as cool of a name. My German Shepherd is named Finn, Finn, after the Star Wars character. Yeah, after the Star Wars character FN2187, which I decided was too hard for everyone to say. And if you've seen Star Wars Episode 7, they go ahead and call him Finn anyway. So that's my dog's story.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
They're great dogs.
I love him. He's so and they're so intelligent, and he's like always ready. He's like, Dad, let's train again. And I'm always like, really? We just like that walk we just did, and I don't know, man. But I love him. I take him everywhere.
They don't stop. They keep going.
They don't. Yeah, they do. Fun fact: my other dog is an American Bulldog, Neapolitan Mastiff, but she's not big. She's like 85 pounds. Her name is Rose. Are you a Star Wars fan at all, Didi?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we got a room
actually,
full of Star Wars fans then. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so
Luke, I am your father. Sorry.
Yes. In this story, for all of our guests listening, so Rose in episodes 7, 8, and 9, she's the character that always calls Finn out on his I gotta think of the politically correct way to say it. His shenanigans.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I have Rose, my female dog, and Finn, my German Shepherd. And Finn's always like, can we chew this? And Rose is always like, no. So, yeah.
I can see that in my head. I really can.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I love it. Wow. So not only is she a German Shepherd mom, a veteran herself. We'll forgive our guy for joining the Navy, but not everyone can go in the Army. Actually, everyone can go in the Army.
Yeah.
But we love you, Didi. Even
thank you.
We love our sailors. We do. But she also, and we're going to learn about this, but she helps warriors relax, refuel, refocus, and rock wellness by remembering to recognize natural resiliency. And we're going to get into what all that means. But before we get started, I want to ask you an icebreaker, Didi.
Yes.
So would you please share a recent personal achievement or milestone that you're proud of?
Okay, I know this is going to sound like it's totally canned, but one of the biggest personal achievements was joining Operation Red Wings Foundation.
Nice.
It was a huge pivot point for me. I've always been more inclined to work with male combat veterans and male special intelligence veterans, and stayed away from females completely. For a lot of reasons. It triggered me and my own experience in the military from when I was in the Persian Gulf and military sexual trauma. So there were so many reasons that I stayed away from my sisters. And it was an absolute turning point for me whenever I ended up at Operation Red Wings as a participant. And I thought, man, look at all this that I've been missing from my sisters. And how do I sign up? How do I do more? How do I give back more? And that is where they embraced me. And so
I love that.
Yeah. So now I get to do a lot more help for my sisters.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That's really cool. I think actually would echo, and I'll echo it too. It's interesting, right? Like we at first kind of like we're like, I don't really know if I still want to be around military, right? Like I did the military thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have my combat experiences. Like I've done all this stuff, right? I want to go experience new and different things. And then when we gravitate back to a setting with other veterans, all of a sudden, we've known them for 5 minutes, and yet it's like I've known you my whole life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Super cool. Well, Didi. Sorry. Ashley, go ahead.
Well, I know. I feel like I want to unpack so much here with that.
Go. But go.
The thing I can totally relate to the sisterhood thing because. And I talk about this a lot in programs that I help with for women veterans, and that we're lacking a sisterhood. Everyone talks about the brotherhood, and, we're with our people. But, girls can sometimes be difficult. We can be. I did this focus group one time where we were talking about, why is there no sisterhood? And there's this concept that came out of this focus group that as females, we always had to, and I'm really generalizing, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, but we always had to kind of be one of the guys to prove ourselves. So we didn't really have a chance to like embrace our uniqueness. I hope that females now currently are getting that experience. And just from what I'm seeing on social media, I do think it's improving, but it's tough. But you get it as a veteran, and I agree. I am getting it a lot as a veteran once you break that threshold and get into the veteran space and are with other veterans and female veterans specifically too, when we're together, it can be very magical.
It is, and I think age has a lot to do with that. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Guy, but I think that age has a lot to do with it because what we had at least when I was in the military, my experience was I was an 18, 19-year-old alpha female, right, at the prime of my life, and get out of my way. Right. Yeah. And so and then I was surrounded by a whole bunch just like me. Right. And so, the bonding there was like putting, packs of canines or big cats together, the females compete, right? And that's what we did. And so now that I'm older and wiser, I can pause and breathe and go, man, she went through exactly what I went through, and get over here and get a hug,
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So the perspective I want to add in here. So my spouse Kelly never served in the military, although she was with me pretty much the entire time I was in the military. We got married as I was transitioning from enlisted to the officer side, right? So I think if I kind of speak from her perspective, her behalf a little bit, right? There was also this like almost sense of duty, mom duty, I'm going to call it, where it was like you had to constantly be in this selfless mode, right? And the military stacked on top of that, right? Selfless service. They always told us like, hey, take care of your troops, take care of your troops, take care of your troops, leaders eat last, like all those things. What's interesting, one of the things I find, because I team lead for ORW Foundation couples retreats, is talking kind of through the metamorphosis of the word selfish, right? So we take the word selfish, and we always kind of learned that it was a bad thing in the military, right? And then you kind of start to spin it down into self-care, right? So then that's when we can do work on ourselves and we can recharge ourselves, right? Because even moms need to pull back. Even moms need to take time. Then after we've gone from thinking of it as selfish, we've gone to thinking of it as self-care. Last but not least, now we can go back and be selfless to others. And then we can really like dive in. And like you said, at the retreats, show up for your fellow sisters, right? For Kelly nights, showing up for those other couples. And I think there's a lot there from the military that does that to us and it really builds that mindset. I also think there's a lot crashing in from society because, you know, your females, your full-time soldiers, airmen, seamen, Marines, and then somewhere in there, more than likely, not all, you're a mom, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. And then and also with military sexual trauma, what I've done, and I don't have like, this is not like in data format or anything like that. It's just something I've done over the years is that as I've talked with different females and different persons in the way of veterans law, I've slipped in the question to some of my older sister vets, you know, when you saw certain things happening, why'd you turn your head? And things like that. And we've had these candid conversations on Daytona Beach, as a matter of fact, a couple of us sitting there. And it wasn't about blame. The conversation wasn't about blame. The conversation was, what was the reality of your situation that you had rank, but you didn't step in? And the reality of the situation is normally had already seen what it did to other people, and I was a single mom, or I couldn't afford to do those things. I couldn't lose it. So I had to keep my mouth shut. So all of those things, you know, when you take that into perspective, you know, it's a lot. And there's so many reasons why, retreats like Operation Red Wings, retreats like the individual as well as the couples and all that, you know, it's good to be able to hear those things, because I know that when I heard that, I was really mad at some of my elder sisters about some of the things that I saw. And when I found out their reasonings, found out their perspective and their part of the life of why they did what they did or why they didn't do what they didn't do, it made a big difference, right? Because I could understand that then. When you're in the midst of trauma, you don't necessarily understand that.
No, I think a lot of people don't realize that that's such an unseen element right there of the military, that so much of it is peer related, that if you align yourself with something that's not in line with the flow, then now you're a target. And
100.
It's, oh my gosh, it's very, man, but it's okay. I'd love to pick your brain about that, just because what would a person do if, like, they know that they should say something, and to feel that guilt afterwards and how that impacts us. And I think that's such a big thing. So can you tell us about your background and what led you to focus on, you know, the legal services and how you got into all that? And
well, yeah, absolutely. One of the things was that I had gone to school and gotten my degree to become a medical scientist. And so I practiced as a microbiologist for several years. And I had an olfactory trigger with something that was happening in a lab next to me. And that was going to count me out because it was a chemical used by OSHA, so they weren't going to get rid of it for me.
Wow.
And I ended up with what's called a failed voc rehab for Chapter 31 under the VA. So when we were looking at what can I do? What could I do? And taking into account all of my own disabilities, etc., we ended up saying, well, let's give law a shot, right? And maybe I could write intellectual property law and end up helping some of my friends who became scientists in the medical field. And just so happens that year that the VA opened up practice to lawyers at all at the regional office level was the year I graduated law school. So it was kind of, in my opinion, God-given. I couldn't see any other reason why he gave me the medical education that he gave me, and then followed it up with accidentally with law, if I wasn't supposed to give back. And so that's exactly what I decided to do.
That is so powerful.
Yeah. So it's a God-given journey for me. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, you're nuts. You could be a millionaire. Why aren't you charging for your work? Don't you know your worth? They give me all of these opinions, but my opinion is God gave me these gifts, and I don't think I'm supposed to be charging a bunch of money for it. I mean, I can raise money for good people that are going to do great things, but to charge it and then, drive away in my Rolls Royce is not an option for me, right? It's not okay. I don't accept that. My brothers and sisters out there, they're struggling. They can't really understand the forms. Some of them can't even get online. So I try to help as many people as I can get there. And what I'd like to do eventually is empower and educate an army of veteran service agents and veteran service officers that are veterans, so we can, and military spouses, so we can pay it forward for each other and always have that dynamic group to refer to within our own community.
And Didi, I think that is so valuable and so needed. I feel like every time I'm a team leader, so usually by couples, right? Say either the spouse went through spouses, the veteran went through individual veterans, male or female. They've at least had one experience, coming back together. And there are always still conversations about this very topic. And in fact, I'm like, I think I'm a little over 2 years into my paperwork journey. And there's so much because I had to step through. So I was going to retire, and then I got put through medical retirement. No big deal. And then it pauses now, and then you do your VA part. And the Army was switching systems, right? Always awesome, not really. And so it was learn and understand and go through this military process, learn and understand and go through this VA process. And then one day my inbox gets hit with like 16 emails, and I'm a reader. We refer to our colors sometimes, like I'm a green forward. If I've got an email and it says like, all this stuff and hyperlinks, I mean, I'll sit there for days.
You got to click on all of them. You're like Groot. Have to press the red button.
Right.
That's right. I love LAMP. I just look around and I see things and I name them and say I love them. And I'm still going through the process of moving all my CRSC, combat related special compensation, moving all of my claims over to combat related. I didn't even know that was a thing until one of the participants coming through was an experienced veteran service office with the VA, and was like, why are you letting the Army just pay you when you're getting all these taxes hit? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And my packet, this is a fun fact, my packet was about 1.5 inches thick for my CRSC packet. And the Veteran Service Office, it was in North Carolina actually, who filed it for me, was like, well, I've never seen one this thick, so it should get approved. And I was like, should? Should?
Well, technically it was probably absolutely approvable, but then you have to deal with a very well-intended Veterans Administration that you may get somebody who's only got 6 months of experience, you guys. You might get somebody who's got 15 years of experience. Yay. But with pandemic, with all the different changes in our government and in all of this, we're not on an even playing field, right? and I wouldn't say that was not just VA, but it is a lot of our agencies, a lot of our federal government, um, a lot of our federal government. So you're not going to always get on the other side what you should get. And, if you're lucky, you will. But can you imagine you have a serious traumatic brain injury and you're expected to do all that footwork yourself? Or you have to go to a veteran service officer who, unfortunately, has lost a lot of funding. A lot of our veteran service officers and organizations have lost a lot of funding. That person has 300-400 veterans just like you that they've got to take care of all this year. Things are going to fall through the cracks. People are going to fall through the cracks. We have a bigger shortage for veteran service officers and agents than we do nurses, okay, in this country. And so when I say veteran service agent, what I'm relating to is somebody who can become a certified veteran service officer or have the same power as a veteran service officer as a regular citizen, and get their Office of General Counsel certification or accreditation and represent veterans, which is the piece that is, I think very, very appealable to military spouses, right? They're the ones that are usually doing all that footwork the whole time you're in the military anyway. I mean, they really are. So they're pretty used to reading code and things like that. So, there, and it's a good way to educate each other,
Yeah.
That's
So
what I
this
think.
this makes me think about something here, because I was talking to a friend of mine who is retired from the Army and retired from the VA and was a Raider himself. And I was like, why do you think, and I want to ask you to this, Didi, and it makes me think back to the other thing I wanted to unpack. Why are veterans as a people, why are we so judgy? Right? Why? I think about this because my friend who was a Raider, and I was like, why are some, even veterans who are Raiders themselves, who go on to work for the VA or like as a veteran, as an accredited agent, why can we sometimes bring our own bias into it? And he had a really interesting tidbit about the different eras. Like, think about, Vietnam veterans who are getting out, and World War II veterans were their Raiders. And these World War II veterans were like, come on, I've been deployed for 3 years. Stop crying about this. Yeah. And then now, some Vietnam veteran people are now our Raiders. And it's like, the judgment and the bias of what, and it makes me think about the discussion about military sexual trauma too, and putting judgment on that. Why are we so judgy?
Hey, Didi, I want to jump in real quick.
No, please do.
My explanation's like, I was a guy on the ground, right? Like, you're both way up here, because I'm like, man, Didi's taking on the whole system. I have no idea how to even start that.
No. Go, Didi.
And my thought is really simple, right? From the day we enter the military, right? We go through basic training, and how we make our bed is critiqued, how we wear our uniform. I mean, I was still for BDUs, so how we polished our boots. And then as we start to move up through the ranks, it's here's your evaluation, right? And if you go to any selection process, you're evaluated. And a lot of times, if you make it through any kind of, like you were saying, your friend, any kind of elite selection process, you're told like, hey, selection is ongoing, right? Like, you're here, cool. Like, that was the easy part.
At any time.
Yeah, exactly. Now you got to prove yourself and stay here, right? So we're almost kind of like, and I know for me and my brain, what happened was I was constantly trying to like self-assess myself. And it's like, okay, cool. I did this really cool thing last week. Now what am I going to do this week? Right. To like keep going. And I think our culture within the military kind of breeds that. And then if I pull in civilian culture now, especially I'm going to go younger generations, you and older generations, I'm going to go younger generations. Their whole lives are social media posted, right? My daughter's 12, and I'm already in a fight with the entire social media world via her cell phone. And it's already started. It's already started, and it's,
Comparisons.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Dee, your thoughts?
Well, what I've noticed is like you said, I learned a lot from Vietnam veterans just about this. Right, I walked into a VA group. I was the only female. I was the only non-Vietnam veteran. I think there might have been a Korean veteran in there. And we stayed together every day for 8 hours, Monday through Friday, for an entire summer. And I got to tell you, they kicked my butt into line.
Ooh,
And that's the truth.
that wisdom.
I was foul mouthed. I was entitled. I was pissed off. And they helped me see things differently by just sharing their stories. At that point, I became extremely humble. I think that what we get is we have a lack of social constructs. Once we get out of the military, we become so divided. We stay in our own trauma related existence, and we sometimes even retain our trauma age, right? So we stay 19, 20, however old we were. And then when we reform back into our own community, we retain and remember exactly that. And so we project that. And one of my favorite stories is I was standing in line at the VA hospital, and me and some guys were standing there waiting for our meds, right? And there's a special line with a really short window for wheelchairs, and it says clearly disabled only, right? And this chick walks up, and she gets in the other line. And so one of our brothers kind of reaches over and says, "Hey, sister, I think that you might be in the wrong line," right? And she turns around with vengeance, and she's like, "I just got my 100%. Do you want to see it?" And she's like, "I am disabled and I have 100% disability." And we're all looking at her like, "Oh man, we've been to that spot in our trauma recovery as well." So we didn't say anything to her. We just let her stand there. And then here comes this lady with her Vietnam veteran in his wheelchair and his 45 oxygen tanks. And she's like, "Well, I don't know if I'm in the right place, right? I'm new here," and usually his caregiver brings him. And we're like, "No, ma'am, you need to be in this line over here for our severely disabled veterans."
Yeah.
And the girl with the tube turns around and she looks, and then she looks at us, and then it clicks. You can see the lights going off in her head. "Oh, that's what y'all meant."
It's
right?
more than us.
Nice.
It's more
Yes,
than us.
yes. And so she did eventually limp her
Yeah.
way over to the other lane, but
Yeah.
it's just all about the growth process. I think that
Powerful.
we are
Nice.
extremely judgy until we start to learn more about ourselves and where we fit
Yeah.
into this new community.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
actually, I got something for you. I have two things.
Okay.
Ready? So
Yeah.
the first one is, both are, I'll call them unseen reframes, right? So one of the unseen reframes I had to remind myself, and I still do to this day, is the idea of like, I'm not trying to seek judgment, right? I'm not trying to, or cast judgment. I'm trying to
Right.
seek understanding. So
Yeah.
not cast judgment, seek
Yes.
understanding. And that pulls me
Yes.
back a lot. Like that pulls me back a lot.
Yes.
And the other one I wanted
Yes.
to throw out there was based on what we were just talking about before, your story, Didi, is the idea that, right? I think a lot of a lot of humans. I'm just going to say humans across the board, veterans, non-veterans, doesn't matter. A lot of humans. All of us, I feel like, and I'm generalizing. I'm going into dangerous waters. Really struggle to see or understand because it's unseen, right? That trauma equals trauma.
Yes.
And in
I
the
agree.
couples retreat, the challenge we always face, and by we, I mean Kelly and myself, is making sure that, say, a spouse who doesn't feel like they have anything, traumatic in their life and is really like kind of standoffish, apprehensive to go talk to one of the clinicians, is hey, look, trauma equals trauma, right? You've been living with someone who has PTSD, TBI, all those things. God bless you, you have trauma, right?
Right.
So actually, your thoughts, trauma equals trauma,
We're
and
learning.
not passing
Yes.
judgment, but seeking understanding.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I think that's great. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I don't mean
no,
to.
I want to hear what you have to say because I
Well,
fully
I
agree.
got to tell you, I think that is absolutely on the mark. And even as a veteran who deals with trauma every day, you can miss that mark in certain relationships, right? Especially when the other person is experiencing severe trauma.
Yeah.
I ran away from that for a long, long time.
Mm.
Of course, I can recognize trauma. I do this and this and this.
Right.
No, I fell right into a very traumatic relationship in trying to help somebody, and ended up needing some counseling for intimate partner violence and things. A lot of our veterans' wives and husbands have come to me and they'll tell me, geez, once he retired, right? He's got all this time on his hands, and we thought it would be great, but now he's having more nightmares, and I'm sleeping in the room, in a different room with a gun under the pillow
Mm.
because I don't know who he is anymore. All that's true, right? And so you're right. Trauma begets trauma. They are traumatized. They do deserve that extra care, that extra education, that extra understanding of what's going on. It doesn't mean that the person that they love is some sinister, evil being. But it does, to be healthy and to be able to get past that. I absolutely agree with you. Engage in understanding, engage in the education of learning about trauma, what it does, what is trauma bonding, what is safe, what is not safe,
Mm.
and when to ask for help. When do you just go balls to the wall and say, not happening anymore. You've got to get help. This is it.
Yeah.
And not being afraid of doing that, because sometimes I've learned a lot of people are afraid of doing that because, well, if I'm not the pillar, then they are going to fall. And that's going to be my fault. So it's my fault that I'm not strong enough. There's help out there. Ask for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just all so powerful, and it's we have to, get outside of ourselves, and we don't even know that we're inside of ourselves until that click, like you had with the Vietnam veterans and that lady had at the VA with the disabled window. Like, it has to click with us, and man, when
Right.
it does, it sure can be powerful.
Yeah, and it's our duty as veterans, each other, right? I think we are the best ones to teach each other that, like in the line at the VA. Like, we all knew she was going to get it in just a few minutes, so we just waited for it, right? Because sometimes if someone from the outside tries to correct that, it's gonna go left, right? There's not there's
They're
that.
gonna get defensive. Yeah.
Yeah, that self-policing edge. I tell people who do investigations at the VA all the time, why do we need more people who are veterans and military spouses, etc., working in our VA? Because we are our best self-police force. We will crack down on fraud. We will report the fraud. We will get it done. We're not going to be okay with other people lying about things. We're just not.
Yeah.
I think that's also like a two-sided sword, right? Because we're often on the guard, on the watch, right? For, is that stolen valor over there, or is that person actually getting what they're entitled, or do I think they lied, right? Um, I had a male individual retreat one time where I had a Marine. Without going into too much detail, I had 11 participants, and 10 of them were sure he was stolen valor, and he was not. It turned out to be MST, military sexual trauma. Um, and so, that's kind of getting back to kind of what I said about like seeking understanding and not casting judgment.
Right.
Um, I also
Mm-hmm.
think though, like it like, it's so hard to say, like we look at someone and they're failing, right? They're not on their meds, or also an alcoholic, or any number of things that can happen as secondary issues, right? And we have this mentality, we veterans have this mentality, and even our spouses, like they learn the same mentality. I'm not going to fail. We don't fail, right? You give us something, we're not going to fail, right? The military doesn't retreat, right? Um, and yet, like, what a lot of us have learned is sometimes, right, that alcoholic has to hit rock bottom before they can really see where they're at, which means we
Yeah,
have
that's
to be
hard.
willing to step away. Yeah. Yeah. It's
You can
really
lead a
hard.
horse to water,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that
Yeah.
is such a hard lesson, though. It really is. I mean, that step away, because, like you said, failure's not an option. So we're not used to stepping away. I mean, it's really, really hard. And just to pivot back on what you were saying earlier about the non-judgment. Yeah, when I talk about fraud, I'm talking about straight up fraud. Not the person that's misunderstood. I see that a lot with female
Especially
military.
as a lawyer,
Yeah.
you see it.
Yeah.
People trying because it comes with money,
Right.
and money makes people funny. So yeah, I'm sure you see that a lot.
Well, yeah, absolute straight up fraud. I mean, people being misunderstood. Okay, so I meet people who their story will change 15 times in a matter of weeks. And what is it at the bottom of the barrel? Somebody who's had to harm a child, or somebody who has been personally traumatized. Usually the BS stories that start out the conversations, it ends up to being, I had to hurt a child, or I'm a male and I was raped. Those are the trauma stories. And then there are the folks who engage with me and they're like, well, how am I supposed to do this pulmonary function test? And I'm like, you're just supposed to go in there and listen to them and breathe, right?
Your body will tell the world.
Right. Exactly. Well, I mean, should I try really hard, or should I blow out?
What exactly do I say? Yeah,
exactly.
I hear that
and I'm like, no, I'm not helping you perpetrate a fraud.
Right.
I don't have and by that time I'm in a client relationship with this person for at least that conversation. So I'm not able to necessarily report them, but I do have the option of not representing them at that point. So I make sure that happens. But there are a lot of there's a lot of that out there, and it's not okay what they're doing. But as far as you were saying about reaching for understanding amongst each other when it comes to certain things like trauma, don't judge. Keep your judge hat out of that. Yeah,
right.
For sure.
I'm sorry, my dog is just going crazy.
Oh, we love dogs around here. You're a GSD mom. We support you.
Thank you.
Right. You're a great soccer driver.
So, I feel like just in these conversations, we've gone through a lot of our questions, hearing about the challenges with the legal landscape that you face as a lawyer working with veterans. But I want to hear more about, what do you think, Guy? I want to know what this means, how you help warriors relax, refuel, refocus, and rock wellness.
Okay. So the way that I do that is I work really, really hard to bring music to veterans in all different forms and fashions. And so I'm a vocalist. I am not an instrumentalist. I've tried. It doesn't work. My right hand does it. My left hand just doesn't want to cooperate. So,
Nice.
So some of the things that I've done is I've done like the Great Guitar Giveaway. I try to raise guitars and put people together where they can learn how to heal with music. One of the things that I did that was successful is I raffled off 2 Metallica tickets and spoke with the folks at Metallica and their team. And they ended up having this concert up in Dallas, and they allowed my two veteran brothers, floor seats, and kind of not really all access, but they weren't stopped going in any of the places they wanted to go check out. So we had one brother who was, they're both 9/11. All of their family members have been veterans, all the men in their family. And they're both in their 20s and early 30s. One is a Marine and one is in the Army. They got to go to that concert and rebuild their battle songs, right?
Nice.
So one of the things that I try to work on is helping veterans take that battle song, take those bad pieces of music that that made them feel strong, but now is attached to a trauma, and relive that in another way. Get into a recording studio, re-record it, go to the concert, make it the best experience you can, and reassociate that. So reprogram that memory. And I support a bunch of local music. There are a couple of local musicians that are also Scotty Frazier Band here in my part of Texas has a recording studio, so they helped with doing that, and he also tours. And so it's all about music, and so that's where the rock wellness is. The relaxing and everything is just
battle songs.
Yeah, it's about battle songs. It's about using music to heal, and now it's about Operation Red Wings Foundation and being able to reach out directly to veterans, and we'll see where it goes from there. That's what we're hoping to do is just make it. That's my goal. I haven't really talked a lot to Operation Red Wings about it yet, but
Are you
there's
listening,
definite
Dale and Morgan?
Yeah.
right there's definite potential there. You know, I mean, there just really is. Their music heals so much, and so rock wellness, and don't let those memories take you to a bad place when you can create a beautiful space.
Yeah, I don't want to selfishly lose you from ORW Foundation. However, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that in Tennessee, there's an organization called Creative Vets, and they have two sides of their organization. One is to do artwork, right? And
Cool.
one is to record music.
Nice.
And they're in Nashville, Tennessee, and actually quite a few of their songs you can access them on Spotify, music,
Cool.
even some major country musicians have picked up some of the songs, tweak them a little bit, and it's when I hear you speak in that passion, I feel like I gotta throw that one your direction. And now that I gave you that one, now I'm gonna ask a hard question.
Okay.
Because I'm sitting here processing and thinking, right? And in my brain, if I think about all the challenges that all the veterans go through to try to make their way to what they deserve, right? With military retirement, with the VA, with all these organizations, right? And then you have let's just say there are good organizations that are out there helping vets, and then there are organizations out there that are trying to make as much money as they can off of us, right?
Yep.
When I think about all that, right, like most of us get so overwhelmed that we're like, I don't even know where to start, so I'm probably not even going to get started. And yet you are out there trying to take on a whole challenge of education and raising the bar for, future veteran service officers. The unseen journey for you that I want to know about is mentally, like, where did you find this strength, or how did you just find the energy to just start going? Because to me, it has so many parallels to all the veterans out there, across the generations who are just like, oh man, that VA thing is so hard. I'm not even gonna get started.
Wow. That's a large question. However, I think that my passion just comes from the fact that when I first got back, I was ashamed of being a veteran. I was ashamed of being part of the Navy. had all kinds of different problems. My mom drugged me up to the VA after I told her I wasn't a veteran, and you know, she knew better. So when all that happened, I ended up at the Texas Veterans Commission and with the Disabled American Veterans. And what I found was that the guys wanted to help, but they were of a different generation, and they were angry that any of these things had happened in the military. And I had a man named Wolf Bedingfield. He was a Vietnam veteran from Texas Veterans Commission, and he said, yeah, his name was Wolf. And he said, Dorothy, come here. And he's on the, he passed last year. Sorry. Rest in peace, Wolf. He brought me into a room with a VA patient advocate named Rufus, who is still alive. And the two of them sat me down and they said, we want to help you, but we don't know a lot about girls in the military. And they still call me girls, right? And we don't want to hear your story about rape. We don't want to hear it because it makes us mad. It triggers us. So we're going to just show you how to do your own claim. And we're going to just do oversight. All right. And I said, okay, let's do that. Right. And that started my journey. And so at that point, I was using and abusing all kinds of stuff. I was traveling around with local rock bands and stuff like that. I was
masking your pain.
Oh, yeah. I think I had over 30, or I had at that point had over 20 to 30 different jobs since I left the military. I was in no state to be doing any kind of legal work, but yet I was taught how to do it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. And so I've always known that. It's not, I'm not to demean anybody that's had any type of struggles with it. It truly is not rocket science, guys. You've just forgotten. You know how to read a code book. You were in the military. If you can read a code book, from your military experience, I'm going to guarantee you that we can help you and that you can help yourself. It's really that simple. It's mystified, I think, for those people that just want to take all of your money and take your benefits. They don't have any right to your benefits. Some of them are just absolute ambulance. They're like ambulance chasers. They make me they make me ill.
What is that hospital having for dinner?
Right. So, you know, you can do it yourself. Are you going to possibly need some help? Absolutely. Are you going to need some guidance in learning what that all means? Yes. Yeah. Use our chartered veteran service organizations and our great nonprofits that are out there to do that. When somebody is pushing you a contract in your face that is going to be asking you to give up 50% or some strange formula you can't even understand, I'd say, hold on, please don't sign that. You can send it now to the Office of General Counsel at the VA. They will do a review for you. We've had veterans lose their homes in these kinds of contracts over benefits that they may or may not ever get, because sometimes these people don't even know what it is you're asking for. They have farmed it out. It's ridiculous. They're horrible. Sharks. Oh, they're horrible. Yeah. They're horrible. Oh, yeah.
So, Didi, I wanna condense that down a little bit, and then I want to pass it over to Ashley. So here's what I heard for your unseen journey on how to take something that people think is so big and so beyond them, and then they can bring it down to a level where they can actually accomplish it themselves. So what I heard was you took shame and guilt. You were then educated and you learned, and you turned it into passion, and you're paying it forward.
100%. That's the best place for my anger. Otherwise, it goes into terrible, terrible places. So it's my channeling, my rechanneling of long lost anger and the anger of everyday frustration in life that we face as disabled veterans. Yeah.
It literally lit a fire. And I you know, we all hate the trauma that we experience, but man, when it lights that fire, it just, we're grateful for it, because we, you know, we don't know good until we know bad, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You nailed it. You nailed it.
Sure.
Okay, so now we want to know. I feel like we can just talk to you forever, but we can't.
You're so sweet. I love you guys. This has been fun.
But we have to touch on, how did we find you? Tell us about your journey with Operation Red Wings Foundation and what your experience has been like as a team leader, and what's your favorite thing about being a team leader?
Okay, so how did you find me? Well, I've got to tell you, it was through a team leader by the name of Brent. I won't give out his last name, but he ended up in a Thursday night group that I go to when I returned home, and he said, "Oh, I need you to meet Dale. I need you to meet these people that I just met. They've made such a big difference in my life, Dorothy." And he came to the newspaper where I was officing out of, and we sat down and we talked. And I told him, "Oh, no, I'm not getting involved with none of these groups, man. I'm just not. I'm just not going to do it. There's not been a whole lot of them that I have found are as upstanding as they pretend to be. And I got to tell you, I don't have time for this." Right? That was my standard answer. He signed me up on the internet anyway. And I got a phone. Yes. Yeah. I got a call from, Morgan and from, Dale's office and stuff saying, "Hey, why don't you just give us a chance?" And I thought, all right, fine. I'm going to go give this place a chance. It's only in Huntsville. That's only 2 hours away. It won't be too much. And if I get really irritated and they're full of crap, all I have to do is get in my car and leave. Right. So I had a way out. Right. And I would have taken it. Right. But I got there and it changed my life. It impacted me in so many ways. And so that's how Operation Red Wings got me. And that's how I got Operation Red Wings, which I think is the better of the two deals, by the way. I'm excited to be in a group of dynamic veterans and peers and military spouses and community people, community Americans that want to do the right thing. Okay. It's not a hate VA club. We need the VA. They work with the VA, but they are not controlled by the VA, guys. It's common sense and
wellness.
it is
on recovery. We don't want to,
beautiful.
We want to
absolutely
go
beautiful. Right.
That's
That's
beautiful.
And I don't want a whole bunch of hate in my life. They don't bring out a lot of hate. They bring out a lot of understanding, Guy. They contemplate critical thought. They're open to all different types of faiths, genders, and everything, race. I mean, none of that has come up in Operation Red Wings as a program. It's been open and inviting, and it has stayed the course of what its mission is, which is to open you up to coping skills, therapies, and things like that to push you towards wellness. And I gotta say, I don't have a problem with any of it. So I love it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And how has your experience been being a team leader? And that's lead cool. From the front. You went through
It's been great, but I'm learning every time, every retreat. I'm learning something new about myself and my own situation. I mean, it might look like, hey, Melanie and I were out there doing it, and we are. But at the same time, with every fireside conversation, with every walk, with every few minutes that I try to talk to each and every person individually at least once to let them know that I'm here and that I care about them. I learned something from each and every one of them. And sometimes it culminates in a challenge, right? A challenge to my own comfort level. But I keep going back because, gosh dog it, I'm learning so much more about myself. And they tell me that I help that I'm helpful, and so yeah, we seem to like each other, and we're getting along great. And then some of those, I would say most of those connections, we've stayed in touch afterwards, and I get to know what all these wonderful women are doing in their dynamics across the nation.
Right.
So it's building that sisterhood. It's building that sisterhood that we have needed for so very long, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. I'm honored. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, 100% honored.
I'm so glad we got a female team leader on here, Didi, because I have to deal with Guy all the time, always talking about the male retreats and how awesome they are. Okay, are we ready? Are we ready, Guy, for what? Come on, John. You know, look at this paper. I got a whole paper filled with these unseen elements.
Unseen elements.
It's a challenge for you.
Okay.
Challenge for you. Yeah. Pick one.
Guy, what?
Yeah. Pick one. How about this? How about you pick one and I'll pick one? I keep going back to, the idea, because like I said, I do echo it a lot in couples retreats. The idea that trauma is trauma, right? So whoever our listeners are, if you're a veteran, if you're a spouse, if you're a family member, it doesn't matter. Trauma is trauma. And if you spend any amount of time around anyone with trauma, whether it was from the military, whether it was from childhood, wherever it came from, then you have stuff to work on yourself. Trauma is trauma. And so go through that formation of the word I said. Go from thinking of it as being selfish to framing it as self-care, so that once you get self-care, you can go out and be selfless.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that.
I love that you took one thing, but really turned it into like 3 things. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's a magic man.
Okay, how can I meld all of these together? Okay, well, there's so many good ones on here, but the most unseen element is that I think people don't realize that there is a lack of a sisterhood in the military, and if we can move past that and create that bond as we get out, as female veterans when we get out, it's just going along with everything we talked about. Here's how I'm gonna work it all together. How we can learn from our elders.
Oh no! No! Don't do it.
Being selfish is a good thing. And, all of these things, being non-judgmental, we can create that sisterhood as female veterans, because it's so desperately needed. Because even though we can generalize as a brotherhood, it does mean sisterhood too, but it really doesn't. There is a special relationship with females as female to female veterans. And if we can draw on the positives of that, which it sounds like, Didi, I want to come through one of your retreats, man, when you're a team leader.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a long time. I think I'm due. I mean, it's been over 4 years since I've been through a retreat, so I feel like I could go again, right?
Yes.
Come on.
I'm just going to go.
We'll have fun.
For sure.
We'll have fun.
Morgan, sign her up. Just put her in online. Go ahead. Make it happen. I love it.
Right?
I don't know. They make me work a lot, so I don't know if I have time. Just kidding. I'm going to make time.
We'll take a week off. Don't worry. I got you. I'll type out the requests. Yeah. Well, for everyone, all of our guests, thank you so much for joining us today. For our special guest, Didi, thank you for being with us. On behalf of my co-host, Ashley, and myself, and ORW Foundation, thanks for tuning in today. Remember, like and subscribe. Hit the button. Join us next week.
Yes, and find us on social everywhere.